Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Aaron Porras, and coming up in today's newscast, Palestinians across the region begin rioting in a so-called day of rage. Controversial United States Congresswoman Ilhan Omar is exposed as an alleged foreign agent, and later we'll show you how buying a falafel can save a life. Relative quiet along the Gaza border has been broken again as terrorists in the Strip fire a mortar shell into Israel Monday evening. Without triggering red sirens, however, the IDF confirms that the strike hit an open field, causing no injuries or damages, and is under investigation. But meanwhile, the IDF is also now preparing for heightened tensions in Gaza, as well as in Judea and Samaria, or the West Bank, coinciding with the Palestinians' so-called Day of Rage. In fact, the Palestinians plan to march in major cities and friction points all across the region on Tuesday in protests against the United States' recent policy changes regarding the status of Israeli settlements. The United States has returned now to viewing the settlements as in disputed territory and therefore not illegal per se. And Israel maintains that Judea and Samaria is also not occupied but disputed land captured from Jordan in the Defensive War of 1967. Palestinian leaders, on the other hand, say that this policy destroys their chances of establishing a state and ending the conflict with Israel. So, of course, these protests bring with them high potential for clashes with Israeli soldiers, and according to reports, the IDF is concerned that even one lethal response to the expected Palestinian rock throwing and fire bombings could lead to more widespread riots. Without releasing too many details, then, the IDF is releasing an undisclosed number of additional troops to targeted areas. And this will help to both better protect the soldiers and to prevent them from using lethal force unnecessarily. Likewise, the Army has issued strict rules of engagement to keep things as relatively calm as possible. Moving on, an explosive sworn testimony against Qatar is now receiving major publicity as more evidence is brought forward to authenticate the claims, and a certain anti-Israel representative has now been singled out in the center of the story. Controversial anti-Israel representative of Minnesota, Alon Omar, is now being exposed as an alleged foreign agent of Qatar, and the testimony is extremely damning to say the least. Because among the other accusations, the Muslim Somali-American Omar is also thought to have passed on information to Iran through her alleged Qatari handlers. But now the story starts with Kuwaiti-born Canadian businessman Alan Bender, who has been giving evidence to American federal courts for the trial of Sheikh Khalid Al Thani, the brother of Qatar's emir. And the sheikh is accused of ordering his U.S. bodyguards to murder 2 American people and hold another American hostage. Well, it was while giving this testimony, which was later authenticated, that Omar's name also came up. According to the deposition, Bender went on to describe meetings that he held with 3 Qatari officials, including Qatar's Security Affairs Secretary. And Bender alleges that the Qataris tasked him with recruiting American officials, journalists, and more. But when Bender allegedly refused, the Qataris admitted to him that they already do it, and that if it wasn't for their cash, quote, Ilhan Omar would just be another black Somali refugee in America collecting welfare and serving tables on weekends, end quote. In fact, Bender says that they were bragging about it, calling Omar the jewel in the crown of their assets on the payroll, even adding that the best thing money can buy are American officials because, quote, they're the cheapest costing officials in the world. Then what's arguably worse is that Omar supposedly used her position within the House to recruit other politicians while also sharing sensitive U.S. information with Qatar, which was later related to Iran. Well, finally, Omar's camp is denying the accusations, saying in a statement that they're all just Saudi-based conspiracies. But this allegation is also heavily suspect, so all we do know is that U.S. Attorney Rebecca Castaneda has already now issued subpoenas against Qatar's ambassador and other officials involved in the case. And now with more on the allegations against United States Representative Ilhan Omar, in which she's accused of being an agent of Qatar, please welcome founder and executive director of the Israel Institute for Strategic Studies, Dr. Martin Sherman. Dr. Sherman, thank you for being with us. What are the greater implications of this deposition?
Well, if they prove to be true, it certainly throws the prohibition of allowing them to Omar to visit Israel in a different light. I'm sure that the Republicans are rubbing their hands in glee at this new piece of news. If it proves true, it's extremely serious. In fact, it might throw light on developments in another country, in the UK, because if Omar is using her position to channel information, sensitive information, to adversarial countries like Iran, one might wonder what happens if Coburn is elected Prime Minister and has access to all British intelligence. Would he not be giving this to people like the Hamas, who he claims to be his friends? So I think
as well, for that matter.
Yeah, and so I think there's an interesting potential parallel between what's going on with Omar and what might go on with Coburn if he wins the election.
Well, so right now we know that there have been some subpoenas that are about to come out, if they haven't already, against certain Qatari ambassadors and officials. How should Israel and Washington be reacting to this, apart from that investigation, or is that enough for now?
Well, I think if this turns out to be any truth in these allegations, it certainly will be a big coup for Trump's administration. I don't know whether they should be seen to be pushing too hard. I've seen a few reports from some conservative sources who are a bit skeptical about it. But for instance,
what are their issues? Yeah.
Well, they seem to think it's a little far-fetched. But I must say there's a Iranian-born imam in Australia, Mohammed Thahidi, who has been warning for months now.
Since July, actually, we've been following him. He goes by at Imam of Peace.
Yes, that's right. And he's been warning for months now about a sinister connection between Omar and Qatar.
Wow. All right. Well, so can this potentially lead to any sort of prosecution of CARE or the Council of American Islamic Relations?
Well, I'm not sure, but certainly I think beyond the legal implications, I think the political implications might be huge, because Omar and her other friends in the squad have been front and center in the Democratic Party lately. And if this is proven to be true, I think it'll be a tremendous coup politically.
Do you think the Democratic Party will actually do something? Because I know Senator Warren and many others have been...
I don't know if they will, but I certainly think it will play out quite well in the U.S. public for the Republicans.
Wow. All right. Well, so do you think that the left will see these allegations again and maybe denounce Omar, aside from maybe her immediate surrounding and party heads like Pelosi? Do you think that other people within the Democratic Party will start to distance themselves from this?
Well, if it's proved true, I think I can't imagine that they wouldn't. I mean, I can't imagine what they wouldn't, but it might be too little too late, because they've received a tremendous amount of support. And when Israel barred their entry into Israel, the whole Democratic Party, including AIPAC, by the way, backed them and censured Israel. If this proves true, I think a whole new light might be shed on the Israeli action.
All right, so my final question is, again, if we assume that these allegations are true, and that means that Omar is in some way an agent of Qatar, what does that say about Qatar's relation to Israel?
Well, Qatar is known to be a major funder of terror. I don't think we should have any illusions about the Qatari.
Is this no surprise, basically?
I don't think that this should be a surprise. But Omar, has been accused of a whole string of other things, like misuse of campaign funds and immigration law infringements and things like that. So this wouldn't be the only infringement of law by Omar. And if this manages, there have been claims that the mainstream media is trying to shut down reporting on the story. But if this breaks out to be a big story, I think it will be very damaging for the Democrats.
Well, Dr. Sherman, thank you for coming and joining with us on this.
Thank you.
All right, now, around 10 days ago, Iranian citizens got a shock when the government nearly tripled gas prices, and the country, which has long been struggling economically under sanctions from the United States and other nations, is now erupting into heavy protests against both the change and the government that made it. But things really took a turn when pro-government demonstrators also began burning the flags of Israel, England, and the United States. ILTV's Shanna Fold tells us why.
Following an announcement that gas prices would rise between 200 and 300% in Iran, the last 10 days since then have been tense for the nation's citizens. Protests, however, intensified over the last few days as pro-regime forces and citizens cracked down on the demonstrators. In fact, 143 have been killed in the country due to violence in the streets, and thousands more have either been injured or arrested, according to Amnesty International. But regime loyalists are blaming the violence on interference of foreign countries, and in a pro-government rally in Tehran, they're now burning Israeli, American, and British flags. Speaking to the rally, General Hossein Salami from Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps accused these countries, plus Saudi Arabia, of inciting political unrest in Iran. He and other Iranian officials also say that these nations are sending in thugs to incite brutality. And Salami even threatened to destroy Israel and its supporters in response to the allegations. In related news, Reuters broke ground with a story reporting that Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, gave the go-ahead for the September 14th drone and cruise missile attacks on 2 Saudi Arabian oil factories, so long as the missiles did not target Americans or Saudi civilians. Saudi Arabia is number 1 in the business globally, and the attack took down half of the kingdom's oil production. The report suggested that Khamenei feared hitting a U.S. base would invite retaliation by the U.S., as well as embolden Israel, or push the region into war. The aggression between the U.S. and Iran was ramped up when U.S. President Trump pulled the U.S. out of the nuclear deal in May 2018. The plan had originally required Iran to reduce its nuclear facilities and accept more regulations and limitations in return for economic sanctions to be lifted. This would have made tens of billions of dollars in oil revenue previously frozen to Iran, now available for use.
In other news, as recent headlines have shown us, political cartoons have a lot of power. But 2 cartoons in particular have made major waves in the Jewish state. And here now to discuss them is cartoonist and creator of Zibeng Comics, Willy Fink. Willy, thank you so much for being with us.
Wow, great.
So tell us a little bit about the comics that we're going to review today.
The cartoons, the 2 cartoons. Okay, one cartoon was done about 2 years ago in the Jerusalem Report by Avi Katz. And he did a cultural reference to Animal Farm with the pigs. And he took this famous picture of Oren Chazan and all the government, making a big selfie after...
With President Trump, sure.
No, not President.
Not with President.
No, just doing a selfie after they passed this law. The entire government, the
nation-state law. That's right.
Yeah, exactly, nation-state law. Then he turned them all into pigs and made a reference to Animal Farm. So the next morning, he was let go from the newspaper. The other cartoon, it was printed in the New York Times. It was done by a Portuguese cartoonist called Antonio. And there you see Trump being led by Bibi as a guide dog. Like Bibi, Trump is a blind man. Yeah. And Bibi had the Star of David on his... and they got a lot of feedback for this cartoon. And what they did, they stopped political cartoons altogether. And they stopped it. And this Antonio guy who did the cartoon, he wasn't even working for the New York Times. It was just, how do you say?
It was an oversight, really, in terms of editing.
Yes,
editorial oversight to choose that cartoon. So, how long have you been working as a cartoonist, and kind of, what do you think about the firing of these 2 cartoonists over this incident?
Oh, I think it's terrible, because the thing is about political cartoons today. It's a very strange situation, because on the one hand, we're getting a lot weaker because newspapers are closing down, all the media is getting weaker, and the social media is the powerful thing. So every cartoon we do, we get a lot less money for it, but on the other hand, everybody sees it nowadays, because every cartoon goes up on the web, up on social network, and everybody can see it. It used to be, I do a cartoon, the next day just wrapping fish with it, it's gone. But nowadays it's so powerful, and especially on the cellular phone, on the mobile phone, it's ideal to see cartoons in that medium. You just.
But ideologically speaking, let's take the New York Times cartoon for example, which again, admittedly, fine. It's not a New York Times cartoon, but the idea that they would show a cartoon like that. First of all, what did you think about that cartoon? Did you think that it warranted the response it received?
I think it was the one at fault here for sure is the editor. He shouldn't have let this cartoon pass. This cartoon didn't even relate to the article. It was something completely just put something there to fill a space. It wasn't in the spot of the political cartoon. I think the cartoon it's close to anti-Semitic cartoon. Mainly because he put the Star of David on Bibi's, collar.
Sure.
And you know, when you talk to the guy, I met Antonio a few times, and he said he put the Star of David on his collar just because he did it in Portugal originally, and people wouldn't recognize Bibi without it. You know, they wouldn't know who this guy is.
Right.
So that's why, you know, so this whole thing, the problem is that people working today in newspapers are not as, you know, the old professionals used to be, just young people, because the salaries are so low.
Maybe they're not thinking so much.
No, they're not very professional. So the thing is unprofessionalism on the editorial side, most of it.
All right, well, as someone with an artistic background myself, you know, I think that it is a shame to kind of come down on cartoonism and cartoonists. And so, you know, I know that they serve such a powerful impact in today's news cycle, but yeah, so we'll see what happens next in the future as this all goes on.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be, we have to...
It'll be very important.
Yeah.
Uri, thank you so much.
It's great. Thank you.
Now, we always say that we need to change our diet and be healthier, but what are our options? Well, thankfully, Emmanuelle Kadosh has some interesting ideas for us that you may not have considered yet. Isn't that right, Emmanuelle?
So with the new year approaching, you've decided to make your New Year's resolution to clean up your diet. Good for you. But now you have to pick from the endless amount of diet trends. Do any of them even work? Are any of them even healthy? I teamed up with Owen Malul to give you the rundown on this year's latest diet trends. Ready?
When people hear the word fasting, they're sometimes afraid about it. But we have to understand, it's true that in our today's society we constantly eat because food is so available. But if you look deeply, fasting is actually very natural. And back in nature, we're not able just to wake up, open the fridge, we have to go and look for our food. When you're constantly getting food from the outside, there's a getting energy mechanism from out. The moment you shut this mechanism off and you wait actually 12 hours, the body is starting understanding, okay, I have to provide myself energy, sugar from the inside. After 16 hours, boost of concentrated fat burn that's starting to happen. So the most popular formula we have in intermittent fasting today is 16 hours of not eating, 8 hours of eating. Why 16 hours? We see after 16 hours, there's this boosted fat burn that's happening. Fat burn, cleanse, and a lot of benefits for your health, tremendous also physical results. Ketogenic diet actually has a lot of similarities to intermittent fasting. Ketones are actually the molecule released from burning fats. When there is no nourishment from the outside, and the body is starting to understand, okay, I have to provide myself energy from the inside, the body is basically using the storage, the fat. There is a molecule called ketones that's going to provide you energy, which is basically more available energy because it's already stored in our warehouse. What kind of food you can eat in ketogenic diet is mainly food which are rich in fat. Yes, a lot of avocados, nuts, seeds, fatty meats. People thought it's bad for you. You know, relating fat, you'll become fat. But this relation is not necessarily true. It's been discovered that fat actually raises less insulin and glucose level. And if you eat more food that has fat, you're also going to experience ketosis, which is very similar to intermittent fasting. We said that intermittent fasting increase fat burn up to 20-fold and ketogenic diet up to 4-fold. The food you're supposed to get away from is the starches, the carbs, which are going to spike your insulin and glucose level and provide you available energy. So basically, ketogenic diet is focused about eating more fatty food based and less carbohydrates, what's going to allow you and allow your body to use more energy and fat burned from the inside. Plant-based food diet. I personally very close to it because I'm a vegan for the last 8 years. I started because I started to learn alternative medicine and understand, you know, the meat industry, the animal industry, and what they put inside. What vegan basically claims is that we're designed as 100% herbivore animals. What veganism basically claims, the health benefits, is you consume the exact food that are designed for your mammal type. Everything that is based on plant, nothing from animal products. Not meat, not dairy, no eggs. Yes, veganism is getting more and more popular. We see it actually. Tel Aviv is considered the most vegan city all over the world. That's why I believe in it.
Whether you're looking to clean up your diet or lose some weight, make sure you know the health benefits and information of the diet that you choose to follow. And most importantly, stay healthy.
Israel's United Hatzalah EMTs are often the first on the scene when there's an accident resulting in injury. But these life-saving emergency medics put themselves in harm's way every time they answer the call, and they're all volunteers. So when the time comes, who rescues the rescuer? Friday, November 15th started normally for volunteer emergency medical tech Tal Kupferstein, but all that shifted rapidly as the day went on. As part of his volunteer services for United Hatzalah, Kupferstein is one of dozens of Israelis who operate ambucycles, motorcycles equipped for on-scene emergency medical care. And as per his job, he was responding to an emergency call in Bat Yam, just south of Tel Aviv, where a woman was reported unconscious. But on that fateful Friday drive, as he made his way to the scene, he was struck by a car, and now he's got months of recuperation ahead. Well, thankfully he's alive. But remember that United Hatzalah workers are volunteers, meaning they have day jobs for financial stability. And Kupferstein's job, which he can no longer do, is running a falafel stand that he just opened. So with his family and business both in danger, Kupferstein's Hatzalah family stepped up to support his wife and 5 children, and they've now organized shifts during peak hours for the next couple of months. Finally, even president and founder of United Hatzalah, Eli Ber, signed on for a couple of shifts, saying that it's heartwarming to see how fast volunteers from all over are coming to help.
It's amazing. It's amazing. He owns a falafel shop in Holon. He left his shop to come help here to make sure Tal's shop is not going to close down and he's not going to lose all the money that he invested. I feel like crying.
And it's not just other Hatzalah workers either. A campaign to buy falafel online and then donate them to soldiers and first responders is now up and running, and thousands of portions at 20 shekels a pop have already been purchased. Finally, for most Israelis, it's pretty common knowledge that Hebrew and Arabic have a lot of similarities. But a new Israeli video showing exactly how alike these sister languages really are is now going viral in the United Arab Emirates. And ILTV's Shanna Fuld joins us with the story. Shanna, all right, how did this video get popular? What is this?
Well, this was a very cute video. It was put on by the Israel Foreign Ministry. Their Arabic department created a video in which they had 2 Israeli women go through a list of words that you can find in both Arabic and Hebrew, or words that had the same root or that sounded really similar. And I think that the idea was to show how similar these 2 Semitic languages are, and maybe to encourage the idea that these cultures have a lot of similarities in general.
We're a lot more in common than we are separate. All right, well, that's amazing. You know, and what do you think, do you think that they hit their target?
I think that they hit their target, but you know what? Let's let the viewers be responsible for judging that.
Yeah, let's take a look.
بنيان بنيان بيت بيت مهندس مهندس جسر جشر جدار جدار.
Gosh, I love that. And I know that video goes on for a while too, because I've seen. You know,
I think that there's more than 24 words in there that are similar.
Yeah.
At least, I mean, they go on for a while, going through the body parts and the parts of the house and things like that are similar.
Wow.
Now, Dr. Ali bin Tamim, who is a confidant of the president of the United Arab Emirates, he and a senior official of the UAE actually shared it on his Twitter. He has about 200,000 followers.
That's awesome.
And so this video got really a lot of views.
It went viral. I mean, arguably viral.
It went viral. They had up to 3 million views on this video. Which is pretty great because it means that there's a lot of reach, and not only is there so much reach, but in Arab-speaking the places that I think this video was intended to target, they are seeing it. The people are seeing it.
Well, I'm loving the success of this video. I think it's such a simple but beautiful and well executed kind of idea. And I know even the alphabets are very similar between Hebrew and Arabic, so it's just really cool to see that put into action and to kind of share that with the world. Shanna, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight should be cool and clear with lows between around 57 and 60 degrees Fahrenheit or 14 to 16 degrees Celsius respectively. Then tomorrow should be sunny again with highs around 70 or 21 degrees Celsius. Only Eilat again is the outlier with highs of 84 or 29 degrees C. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.48 shekels to the American dollar. For more news from ILTV, please like ILTV on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube. I'm Aaron Porras. Thank you for watching.